Hey everyone, we are a smaller
Yes.
we're a smaller group than I think had been anticipated, but we're a wonderful group. And so there's a few things that we've been asked to go through, and I've modified them just a tiny bit, though not a tremendous amount. So welcome to the room. Thanks Tosin for helping us out. Thanks Christian for organizing. Thanks Max for making sure all this works. And my apologies for my technical difficulties. I'm Jeff Furman. I'm a faculty member at Boston University. My experience with the bioeconomy was kick-started thanks to two of the folks who are on in this room with us, Stephen Moss and Andrea Hodgson, by working with the National Academies on the report that Diane described and that Andrea had kindly shared in the earlier discussion. So our task is to talk about promoting the bioeconomy and the policies that might help do so in the context of North America. We have a number of discussion items to go through. We can work with Slido, although we're a sufficiently small group that might not be necessary. We're in fact a group of 4 plus even Andrea and me and Christian if he's participating rather than just listening in. And so our questions for today were: if my government asked for advice on how to promote the bioeconomy, what would I recommend? That's our first question for the day. And I've just come from teaching. Should we be cold calling in this circumstance? Should we also do introductions? I mean, we're a small enough group that we might as well just do some introductions so that we could all get to know each other. Tosin, would you like to start on introductions? I know you're here for the back end, but you're just as important as everybody else.
Okay. My name is Tosin Arenaike. I'm Nigerian, but I work with Zeph here in Bonn, Germany. Yeah.
Thanks. Anyone willing to jump in next?
Sure, I'll go. I'm Andrea Hodgson. As Jeff mentioned, I was the study director for the U.S. National Academy's Safeguarding Bioeconomy report. My background is in microbiology, and I got sucked into bioeconomy related topics with my work at the academies.
Stephen, can we go to you? We'll stay with DC.
Sure. Hi, I'm Stephen Moss. I also work at the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. I helped out with the bioeconomy report, the Safeguarding the Bioeconomy report that Diane presented on. I work on a number of other things related to synthetic biology and biotechnology within the national academies as well, or the U.S. National Academies. So thank you.
And Max?
Yeah, I'm happy to go next. I'm Max Voigt. I work at the Center for Development Studies at Bonn University. And I studied North American studies in my master's studies. And that's why I figured I'd join your group, Jeff.
Great, thank you.
Not a bioeconomy expert. I'm more a cultural studies person, so be aware.
All right, thank you. Fujishima, can we ask you for an introduction?
Fujishima from Japan. I happen to be one of the IAC member for this GBS 2020. I am from Japan, but the Asian and Oceanian breakout room had no other participants, so decided to come here.
Gosh.
So, yeah, nice to see you guys.
I wonder whether that means we lost a bunch of folks from the plenary to the smaller groups.
Well, it's just the wrong time of the day. It's 1 a.m. in Japan and maybe about 3 a.m. in New Zealand. So I don't think anybody will be awake at this time of day.
And that makes pretty good sense. It's nice and morningy here in Boston.
Yeah, must be. It's very late, sleepy time of day for us.
And what's your background, Fujishima? Your area of expertise?
I am in the funding agency for all sorts of technology, including bioeconomy and biotechnology. So I am sort of viewing what goes on in synthetic biology or genome editing, or broadly bioeconomy in general. So alternative fuel or whatever, chemicals, plastics.
All right, thank you.
But, I am biochemist by background.
Excellent. Esteban? Sorry, can't hear you, Esteban.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hey, I'm Esteban from Mexico. I'm a biotech engineer, and I've also worked for some time in data science, but currently I'm doing my master's in France. Well, not only in France, in Europe, in biological and chemical engineering for a sustainable bioeconomy. Yeah, that's why I'm interested in these topics.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. Emmanuel?
Yeah, hey, hello everybody. I'm from Germany, and I'm working at the Projektträger Jülich, which is an agency that helps the government to manage research projects. So we are working for the federal government for research, and I'm working in the department for bioeconomy, and we are also doing some kind of advising for the ministry.
All right, great. Thank you for joining us. Christian, I suspect you've introduced yourself to everyone, but maybe not in the small group.
Yes, and actually I also jumped in because the Asian, I should wanted to host the Asian group, but we've only been too technical, two organizers in one. So we thought to join you. I'm also working in one of the, I'm from Germany, I'm working in one of these projects of the Projektträger Jülich on modeling, or two projects on modeling and monitoring bioeconomy. So that's my interest, pretty much close to what Justus Wessler just was talking about in the panel.
Christian, would you like to lead us then in our group today? You are the most experienced GBS moderator in this room.
Maybe just let's go through your slides. I think we should briefly discuss about these questions. I mean, you started with the first.
Yeah. Can we do very quickly? We haven't don't want to leave out Emilio if Emilio is listening in. We don't have a visual on Emilio, so it's possible that he's not hearing us. But okay, all right. So then we've done our introductions. So let's go to the slides, and I've slightly modified the first slide into two parts. So the first question, first version of this question would be, if my government asked for advice on how to promote the bioeconomy, what would I recommend? And then a useful additional way to think of this is, if the government asked for advice on how to promote the bioeconomy in a sustainable or circular manner, how would I make recommendations to them? My views are going to be pretty similar to those espoused by Diane in her 5 minutes, and so I think we might want to open this up for discussion.
Okay, I'll jump in.
You may be asked, Andrea, for advice on these things.
Yeah, so I will have my Academy's hat on and say that our report has a number of strategies and recommendations that would be relevant here. But as an individual, not speaking on behalf of the Academies, I think we've talked a lot about the challenges of coordinating across different agencies. In the United States, we see that research related to bioeconomy is covered across a lot of different agencies, and there's not really good crosstalk or coordination amongst the groups. And so I get the sense that there's a lot of false starts or some redundancy in some of the efforts, and we could probably solve some of that and be a little bit more efficient and actually maintain forward momentum towards a strategy if we were to have a little bit more coordination. And I think that would apply also for connections to industry and internationally. So I'll stop there.
And to build on that, with a little bit of inside information on specifically what it is that you're recommending, what do you see as the best way for that coordination to occur? Who should take the lead? Who should be at the table? Who should be ignored?
Yeah, so I think, so the Board on Life Sciences, which is the unit of the Academies I sit on, more recently has had a number of conversations about on a similar level. And we've started engaging more with those who are within the different agencies that oversee the research, but also engaging with, I think obviously we think about like the academics who are pushing forward developments. And what I really learned from our experience on the report, right, is the importance of those who are monitoring how much is the growth, where are things moving. So I think it needs to be an interdisciplinary group, right? We need those who care about the economics aspects. We need those who care about some security elements, as well as the cutting edge research and what could be made sort of commercial or actionable. I think another thing that we've seen internationally is also public support, right? So we're not seeing a lot of, so there's sometimes pushback from the general public towards some of these products. So I think we would need to see a very diverse group that can think about all these different elements of how we would try to move products forward and get them out into the world that we would, we can create all these amazing sustainable products, but if no one's using them, it's not really going anywhere. So I think that type of a pretty diverse cohort. As for who should lead it in the US, that's a struggle because we have such a decentralized system. But if you could get high-level support, someone who would be able to touch into all of those agencies and groups, that seems to be the most logical path forward. And internationally, I think we have to think about what are the different sort of multinational agreements that or locations, venues where we could have conversations just like this to get that type of coordination. I feel like I'm just recapping our report now.
It does not seem to have been contradicted at a high level yet. And so that seems like a reasonable path to go. And when you mentioned at the high level in the United States, it sounds like you're implying that the ideal place in which that ought to be located is in the office of the president, because that's the only location that can have that degree of coordination across agencies and can have the profile that could bring together the various groups that you're describing: business, economists, researchers, and security experts.
Yeah.
Does anybody have reactions to that, or feel that there are different approaches that could be taken in different countries? North America is not just the United States. The problems of the United States are typically the problems of North America, but they're not the only problems for North America.
At least I have a follow-up question, if that's okay. You speak about the federal level, but I also, and staying within the United States, but going to the states level, like how would you bring bigger states, maybe also oil producing states like Texas on board? Are there any specific recommendations how you would appeal to the guys in Austin to get on board?
I don't think Austin is the problem.
Right.
Talking about the capital, I understand.
Everything else around it, then, yeah.
Yeah. I will say, as a follow-up, as a sort of an answer to your question, and a follow-up to kind of what Andrea was talking about, it's almost become that sustainability and circularity in the economy is like a bad word in some circles, or bad words in some circles. This is specifically what you're talking about with like oil producing states. And so I think that there's almost the need for policy or informational campaigns to help people understand that providing a sustainable bioeconomy or a circular bioeconomy does not necessarily exclude the fact that we would still need, starting materials like oil and natural gas and petroleum products. So I think that there needs to be some attempt at providing information to the folks who are using this as sort of a stratification of, or like a dichotomy of like, this is either you have a circular economy, or you have or you're producing or you have a productive economy. So and I think that that's one of the main issues that we deal with right now.
Yeah. No, that seems to be true, is that the public debate is often cast as sustainable growth versus actual growth. And that seems to be both a false dichotomy, but also one that needs to be combated fairly actively, and that probably can't be combated at lower levels. but that would require the consensus of security experts, researchers, business leaders, and economists, and support really at the highest levels of the U.S. government. Otherwise, not just the folks in Texas, but many folks who even in my home state of Pennsylvania, who will rise up against the use of the term circular, even though that's probably not in their most in their best economic interest. Okay, so those are, I think, some statements on these questions, but Christian, I'm not sure we've gotten all the way there to the first set. Can you help us, Christian?
I'm not sure. I mean, I wanted to see, maybe can we also look at other countries? At least we have Mexico here. I don't think anyone from Canada's there, so I think it's just two countries. Or we could also talk about. I mean, we could also talk about Japan, if we say this is a North America plus a Japan session.
That works. That sounds good. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Well, if this was Pacific, yes, it does make sense for me to speak from Japan. How to promote bioeconomy or sustainable circular economy? Well, it's quite simple, because what are we fighting against is really the case of Texas is a good example. We are fighting against fossil-based economy, whether it's a linear model or whether it's bio-based model. And so if we cut all the subsidies to fossil-based business, then we have to divert to either to a bioeconomy or circular economy. But the challenge is that for those people who already has got jobs, their lifestyles, and pretty much everything, energy dependency or vehicle dependency, really, they will be out of business as well as out of actions. So how actually to balance it is the challenge. But simplest solution is, tax on fossil. However, once again, it's not easy. Then what should be done is really gradual shift, but how actually to make a value chain out of the bioeconomy or linear against the linear economy to a more circular economy. That actually is very much effort needed by the industry to commit themselves, and how actually to get commitment from the committed companies, I should say. That actually is where the policy plays a role. So that's my view. Thank you.
Christian, as the moderator of the Asia Pacific panel, do you have things to add to that one?
I don't know. I'm a bit surprised, because I mean, we just heard half an hour ago Laura from the EU. She works in a department or a part of the EU that's really promoting the rural areas. So in a sense, I think bioeconomy could be something not for the centers, but for the rural areas. So I was a bit surprised to hear. I mean, I know that there's a lot of different opinions, for example, about the energy question in the US, but that do you really think that also the bioeconomy is something that has a bad name in many also rural areas? Because it should be something that is really should help these people there.
I don't truly know the answer to that, but I think it would be, I have more of a sense, at least like when we were starting to talk to people about the report, and we were mostly talking to experts that work in biotech, we encountered a fair amount of people who hadn't heard the term bioeconomy. And so I think part of the potential opposition could just be a lack of understanding of what it really means, like that it would include the agricultural sector and some of the traditional farming methods, or being able to use some of the biomass for other purposes, downstream purposes in like chemical processing is just not sort of, I'm not sure folks think about it in terms of a bioeconomy. And so maybe we need more of a PR campaign about that within the US domestically to get that type of uptake. Because it's true that we often go right into energy examples or energy related examples, which I think, you know, we maybe have the country has maybe politicized some of those examples in the past.
Is I think in many ways in the United States, folks look at the bioeconomy not at the term overall, because I don't think that the term is widely understood, even among some folks who've worked on the topic, but that instead what folks typically relate to are industry-specific examples. And so promoting biofuels will certainly have tremendous support in Iowa. And anything that's going to lead to ethanol production is going to be supported by the heartland. But anything that threatens fracking would be not supported by both many of those folks who are in rural areas who aren't even closely associated with fracking. So I think that in the U.S. we'll see support levels vary very much based on the industry as well as the location.
For me?
Yes, sir. Not
Yes.
necessarily about the U.S., but other perspectives.
Yeah, I would speak a little bit about Mexico. Like from my perspective, I think that in Mexico, concerns about the environment in general are in a second plane. Like right now, the main concerns are related with inequality, I think, and the current government has exploited that inequality to earn popularity, and has left aside both research like in basic science, and also has, in my opinion, completely ignored and even stepped back in terms of environmental policies. So I don't know. For me, I would think that a good approach to promote bioeconomy and circular economy in Mexico in particular would be to see it as a tool to empower the lower players of the economy. So the small agriculture producers in rural areas in particular, which as some of you have mentioned so far, they probably haven't heard anything about the circular economy and how it can provide tools for them to be more profitable or to generate more jobs and things like that. I think like starting to speak about the circular economy tools that can generate business and generate jobs could be a good idea for it to start gaining popularity and even getting known in throughout the country. And also, I think it should be embedded also in the education programs, because I don't know, I think that it's not we're not talking about it as much as we should.
So the main recommendations are for diffusing information about the bioeconomy, or do you suggest major policy changes or changes in allocations of funding or policy coordination?
Well, I would also think that it's important to make changes in policy, but oriented in pushing a little bit the bigger players into getting also a little bit more interest in switching to a bioeconomy instead of, because Mexico is also a big oil producer. So actually the current government is even more interested in continuing to exploit that instead of even focusing a little bit into switching to a bioeconomy. So yes, definitely a policy change would be good. But yeah, so also thinking about the circular economy potential in agriculture, which is also a major part of the Mexican economy, would be also a good idea.
Okay, so just checking on time. Christian, we have about 10 more minutes. Is that right?
You're muted, Christian.
So, sorry, no, I think we have to go back to the panel right now.
Well, look at that. Then what we have not answered are what are the greatest concerns about our country's policies with regard to the bioeconomy, or our greatest concerns about international coordination. Look at that. We had an enjoyable discussion. I learned a lot.
So see you back in a minute in the big blue button.
You hit a minute in the big blue button. Let's hope that my computer doesn't
Yes.
explode when I attempt to do it.
Nice to meet you all.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.